What is up, guys? Welcome to Gold Rush. I am Neil Barrett. Today we are talking about the first day of Championship Series games, which just ended. I am here with Jackson Van Vlake, PLL fan, aficionado, lacrosse guru guy, friend, I guess we could say.
Absolutely.
All right.
Both Carolina boys, even though you're not here anymore, but
yeah. I listen. We have had snow on the ground outside for a solid 2 months now, and I have never missed North Carolina more.
I'm sure. No, the last year I was up at the Champ Series, I got the opportunity to go, and I mean, it wasn't even a big deal. Like, I remember going home from the first night and seeing snowplows, and I've never seen a snowplow in my life. And just woke up and there was snow on the ground, but the roads were fine. And I was like, wow, we're not in Kansas anymore.
Yeah, that reminds me of the first time I ever went to LaxCon. You know LaxCon?
Yeah.
The first year I ever went, it was in Baltimore, as it often was. And right as I was leaving, I actually left a few hours earlier than I had planned to from North Carolina because there was some snow coming in, and we were supposed to get, I believe in Greensboro, we were getting about 2 inches was like kind of the heavy prediction. And people were like, "Oh, you're leaving? Like, what are you crazy?" And I was like, "You don't understand. Like, they are better. They are equipped to handle 2 feet of snow better than we are to handle 2 inches." And I went up there, and sure enough, we got 2 feet of snow in Baltimore. And the city did kind of shut down a little bit, but they had, roads were cleared, sidewalks were cleared, everything. I ended up staying an extra day. So I stayed the whole weekend, and then I stayed an extra day, and coming home, drove all the way through Virginia and literally hit the North Carolina border. And you could instantly tell, like, I didn't even need the sign, because all of a sudden there was snow like sweeping across the roads. It was down to 1 lane, and it had been probably 4 or 5 days since then, and North Carolina was still just like wiped out. And then,
oh yeah, two inches of snow closed the school for a week in South Carolina.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we there's 2 feet of snow sitting outside this window right here, right now, and not a single thing has stopped. We did Super Bowl parties, like not a single. It's crazy. So, whatever. Anyway, day 1 was in the books. Let's get into the WLL. It started the day off today. Kind of overall, what did you think? This is the first time that we've seen the WLL on the field. So what were your initial thoughts and impressions about the game?
yeah, so I missed the Unleashed All-Star game last year for whatever reason. I can't remember what it was, and so this is the first real exposure to the women's game I've had, especially women's sixes. And man, it was fun. And I don't have any relation. I like Marcus Holman, so by extension, I like Alex Oss-Holman. So kind of pull in, but I did predict the Charging to win the whole thing. So I was kind of torn there, but it was an awesome game down to the wire. Wasn't a huge fan of that last call. To me, it's one of those just kind of, let them play kind of thing. But you do have to appreciate the refs, probably calling a whole new rule set with, pretty limited experience. So I thought otherwise the game was called great, and the players were awesome to watch. I'm still waiting for that first 2 to come, because that is going to be absolutely electric. But it was a great game, and definitely could not have asked for a better opener.
Yeah. No, I agree. It was a super fun game. It was ruined a little bit by specifically that holding call when Maryland got the ball back with 30 seconds down a goal, and we're headed down the field, and it seemed kind of like a phantom call. That one call was pretty bad, but I'd say the last 3, 4, maybe even 5 minutes, there were a few calls that were really like, was happening that otherwise throughout the whole game didn't seem to be being made that all of a sudden were. And that was really weird. The other kind of just overall notes I thought were, I wrote sloppy, which feels really harsh, because we talked in the kind of group chat that we're all in during the game, and I said it felt like a team full of a brand new team playing in a brand new league in a brand new form of the game. It felt like there was a lot of jitters, or I don't know what was going on. I know the women that were on that field were capable of playing better than they did, especially early in the game. I'd say the first half definitely, and maybe even kind of into the third quarter a bit. It felt fairly sloppy, but then the fourth quarter it definitely kind of picked up a bit.
Definitely.
So that was a big thing for me. Two other things I noticed were both teams seemed to be using a lot of offense and defensive specific substitutions.
Yep.
It looked a lot
lines.
Yeah, it looked a lot to me like a box game where
a shift change.
Yes, where you're heading down and you pull your offensive players on, and then you're heading off and bringing defensive guys on, or girls in this case, which is not something we've seen really in the PLL version of sixes. I tried to watch for it in the second game, and it didn't seem to be a big thing that was happening. It happened some. Miles Jones was not playing a ton of defense, but he did, and he would start on the defensive end. Whereas some of the girls like Kylie Ohlmiller, I don't think I ever saw her on the defensive end. Sure. The second a shot went, she took off to the box. So that was interesting. And then I thought it was so weird, and we'll get into specific players and performances here in a minute, but every kind of standout performer on the field in that first game, I thought was a charm player.
Yeah. And they went 4 for 4 on faceoff. So, I mean, that's a unique spot there. And the goalies were both pretty comparable. It looks like 11 saves for both. It looks like, the charging may have got one more shot off. Waters was 44%, and I'm going to butcher her last name, but I think it's Duquette maybe for the charging.
I think it's Doucette. I think is what it is. Someone can let us know if we're wrong. We're probably both wrong. They're gonna be like, actually, it's French or something.
Right. But she was 45.8. So, like I said, probably one more shot for the charm than the for the charm rather than the charging. But both very comparable. I thought they both played awesome, especially for not the lack of, but there wasn't as much focus on the two. I'll have to look and see if there were any taken in the game. I don't see any, but it looks like it's very well balanced. Both ends, like I said, the game came down to the wire, so it'll be really interesting. But like you said, it felt like the charm had not the more stars, but they just jumped out a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I think for the sake of what we're talking about, that's not a bad way to put it. That the stars of the game all felt like they were playing for the charm, and yet the charging were the team that won. It felt very like a strange kind of juxtaposition of stars versus just kind of evenly spread. That being said, the charging did have Emily Harashuk, who was also one of the stars, but
right. Well, and if you'll let me say it, it felt like the charging had a bunch of Xander Dixons on their team, right? Guys that are or in this case girls that are just kind of cleaning up on the crease, in that kind of 5 yard and in range. It looks like they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different goal scorers. So it felt like they were spreading the wealth a little bit better. And like I said, just a bunch of more inside shots. I mean, there was a bunch of really, really impressive plays, a lot of like backhanded shovel shots, which in my limited experience with a woman's stick, I wouldn't have even gotten close. So
No, I can't even imagine being able to play with the sticks that these girls do. Like I am blown away. Obviously, I think the big star coming out of this game is Sydni Black. She kind of had a little bit of a quiet second half, but that first half she was incredible. She was everywhere. She finished with 5 points on 4 goals and an assist. She was the one that Twitter was blowing up about for most of that game. I thought arguably the best player on the field was Kaylee Waters, the Charm goalie.
Yep.
Crazy to me that she, when I looked up and saw that she finished at 44%, I was like, wait, what? She looked like Liam Entenmann out there. She was making crazy saves that you would not expect a goalie to be making. I thought she was incredible. And when I saw 44%, I was like, what? Joe Keegan did put out a stat later in the PLL game that said the PLL average in sixes is 40%. So 44 is actually a pretty above average number
right.
for a sixes game. It's just coming from a regular kind of field game. You'd see 44 and you'd be like, oh, that's rough. But she was incredible. And then, like you said, Jillian Wilson was the draw person for the Charm, and she, like you said, she went 4 for 4. That I thought their defense was really good, again, especially in that first half. And again, other than Emily Harishuk and then Madison Duchette, I couldn't tell you a standout performer beyond those. Like you said, it was cleaning up little things. It was spreading the ball fairly evenly. Izzy Skane had a couple of good goals, but she didn't really pop off the screen, which kind of surprised me.
She was great down the stretch, though. I mean,
yes.
she had a couple of I think she finished with 2 goals. I want to say at least one of those was in the fourth quarter, maybe even late in the fourth quarter.
I want to say it was both of them. If it was definitely one for sure, but I want to say it was both of them.
Yeah. So, I mean, she's the captain of that team, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, obviously you want your captain kind of stepping up in those big moments, and she did. And obviously they came out on top with the win. So really great game. And going back to the goalies, it looks like both teams were very comparable on shots. Like I said, there was one more shot for the Charging than the Charm, but the Charm shot 37.1% and the Charging shot 38.9%. So, it's a game of inches.
Yeah. It felt like a very even game that was played 2 completely different ways. Like we said, Charm was kind of these star performers leading their team, and Charging was just, kind of everybody chipping in and doing their part. And that, especially that second half, you said you picked Charging. We're both kind of women's lacrosse outsiders learning the game. And I had heard a lot of people saying, hey, this Charging roster is really, really good. And I kind of got that feeling walking away, even without the star performers. It felt like, okay, yeah, this is a very good group of teammates, like they're gonna go very far based on how well they play together.
Yep.
One real quick thing before we switch gears, the you can't play zone defense caught me way off guard. I don't know if you caught that during the game. I
did not catch that.
Yeah, apparently in women in the WLL sixes. So I went and looked this up because I was like, what, that? I've never heard that rule. I didn't know if it was a rule in sixes in general. I didn't know if it was a rule for the PLL or not, because I'd never heard it. So I went and looked it up. It's not a rule for the PLL Championship Series. It is not a rule for men's or women's at the international level. So I put out some feelers it's apparently about women's safety. They have some different rules about like spacing and
Right.
shot safety and stuff. So it's apparently about that. But I thought it was interesting that it's a rule in this WLL version of sixes, but not at the international level, where typically rules are a little bit more stringent at the international level. So
yeah. Well, I do remember there was I think it was called a walling penalty that was called on the defense, and I didn't catch the full explanation of it, but they did mention that it was a player safety thing, and I guess, maybe it's like an intentional step into a shooting lane, or, I didn't catch that, so I'll have to do a little bit of research on that before tomorrow's game.
Yeah, I heard the walling call like you, but I didn't ever get the explanation either. So part of learning the women's game clearly is going to be
learning the rules,
and I am interested. I tweeted before the game, just before we moved to the PLL game. I tweeted before the game, the TLN put out a video about Olympic sixes and kind of how we got here and what the future looks like and stuff like that. And while not expressly said, it is heavily insinuated that the WLL will be a sixes league. And I'm wondering what you think of that. We're, like we've said, we're both kind of women's lacrosse outsiders a bit. And I'd imagine that while we both celebrate lacrosse in all of its forms, I'd imagine that we're both a little bit of traditionalists.
Sure.
And so I'm just wondering what you thought about, what you think about hearing that. I don't know if you heard it before.
Yeah. At least so to me, the women's game lends itself better to being a sixes game because of the lack of long poles. I mean, I think if the men's game were to go permanent sixes, you're isolating maybe, I mean, it's obviously going to be easier for kids to grow up, specializing and it won't be specializing, but it'll be just only playing with a short stick. But, unfortunately on the men's side, there's going to be a whole crop of guys. We're talking about, LSMs and D-poles that, really just aren't going to be, candidates to make an Olympic team because of the format. On the women's side, they all play with short sticks. And now while some of these women's players had, defense backgrounds and we saw more of the shift changes, I think that will be an easier transition than, the men that are used to playing with short sticks and long poles, going to a full-time sixes model. I had a great time watching tonight. And that, like I said, is kind of my first exposure to any type of women's lacrosse. So I had a great time watching that. So I wouldn't mind on that side. On the men's side, I would be a little disappointed. But the kind of the, allure of sixes is the access, and, being able to say, okay, well, we have, 12 sticks. And, if we're going to go, if we're going to take it to, somewhere in Africa, we don't have long poles, we're not going to be competitive in the men's game because, we're not used to playing with the long sticks. For the women's game, it's the same stick regardless. So, like I said, I think it lends itself better to that, transition to a full-time sixes league.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that aspect of it. I thought more about, kind of what we were losing. But you bring up some good points, for sure. I'm sure this is going to be something that especially as we move closer and closer to the Olympics, that it's going to become more and more of a hot topic. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that real quick. Let's switch gears into the PLL game. The Atlas blow away the Whips 13-25. Again, like with the WLL game, kind of let's start more kind of broad and what were your overall thoughts about the game as a whole?
Jim Stagnita is going to bed a very disappointed man tonight. I mean, they asked him about it pregame. Jim, we know you hate to lose. Like, what's different this year? Clearly not much. Unfortunately, they are a team that has some NLL guys, and obviously they made the trade for Matt Brandow, and it sounded like the rosters had to be finalized before that trade was finalized. And so
that's what I've heard. Yeah,
that was kind of I don't know what the word I'm trying to use there, but you feel like you could almost circumvent that a little bit. But I guess you've already told that guy that he's coming, and he's asking off work and all that stuff. So it sucks on that front, but yeah, just more of the same of the first year. And I mean, the Atlas look great. They are built for sixes, I think.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at just the box score, I mean, I think it was 4 2s for Atlas and 2 for the Whip Snakes. And I mean, Liam Entenmann, like you were talking about earlier, I mean, 54% isn't an awesome stat line in a field game, but when the average in a sixes game is 40%, and I think he went 54%. Let me
58,
57, almost
57.7, yeah.
I mean, and he stole some. I mean, it wasn't. He
absolutely.
was making great saves, but he stole, I mean, at least 2, maybe even 3 goals.
Mm-hmm.
And like they were talking about in the post game presser, that's momentum. And especially sixes lacrosse is such a game of momentum because it doesn't stop. I mean, you pull the ball out of the back of the goal and keep going. And when Entenmann makes that crazy save, Atlas comes down, scores. You got to go right back at him and say, man, he's dead on his head right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
are you a soccer guy at all?
Not particularly. I love watching it when we're wearing the stars and bars. But other than that, I don't watch a ton of it.
Okay. There was I'm a big Manchester United fan, and we had a goalkeeper for about a decade named David De Gea. And I used to always say David De Gea is the best shot stopper in the world. There were other elements of the game where maybe other guys were better, or at least, kind of closed the gap on him. And you may not necessarily think that David De Gea was the best goalkeeper just all around in the world. But in terms of stopping the ball, he was absolutely the best in the world. And that's kind of what I was thinking about Liam Entenmann tonight watching that game was Liam Entenmann, I think, might be the best shot stopper in the world right now. There are other elements where maybe, Blaze or Dauber or somebody closes that gap, and maybe they are ultimately all around, commanding their defense, outlet passes, the total encompassing picture of what a goalie is. They may be better than him, but just in terms of stopping the ball from going in the net, I can't think of anyone that's better than him. Again, Blaze and Dauber, and I'm not saying he's, head and shoulders above everybody, but like he I'm wrong.
Routinely steals them.
Right. Yeah. Goals that or shots that should be goals, he stops routinely, like you said, routinely.
Well, he reminds me a lot of Jack Concannon a couple of years ago.
Yes.
I mean,
yep.
He was good for 1 or 2 of those a game where you're just like, okay, well, he's 3 feet from the net. It's a goal. And somehow or another, Jack Concannon comes up with the ball. That's exactly what Liam Entenmann does.
The difference is, and I love Jack Concannon, I'm not throwing shade. I very much argued that he was way better than he was giving credit for. I am a big Jack Concannon fan. But the difference is that Jack Concannon robbed a few goals that should have been goals. He kept them off the board, but then he gave up a few that he should have had easily. Liam Entenmann doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Liam Entenmann makes the saves he should make, and then 2 or 3 times a game is going to steal one too.
Right.
So he is a difference maker in that. Going back to what you were saying about Jim Stagnita, I thought it was so funny that during the halftime of the WLL game, they had Paul Rabel in the booth, and when they started talking about the upcoming PLL game later, he called Jim Stagnita the best pro lacrosse coach in history. And I don't know if that's true. That might be a conversation for a different podcast on a
The guy
different
is
day.
still active. He's not a head coach, but he's still active.
Who?
Why am I drawing a blank on his name right now? Resch, Coach Resch.
I thought of Rush too. I thought, would we say he's better than Resch? Again, that's a conversation for a different day. I don't want to get too deep into that. I just thought it was so funny that you said that, an hour before he goes 0-5 with the whips in sixes. And I know in 2023 when he was, I know lots of people were saying that Jim Stagnita hates sixes. There's a level of, as good as he is as a coach in the PLO, there's a level of almost like he just doesn't understand sixes or something. Like I don't know, because I mean you could see this coming when they release rosters. Like you could look at that roster and it was clearly the worst roster of the 4 teams. It was clearly not well put together, and it showed as bad. It was every bit as bad as I think most of us thought it would be.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of a head scratcher to me, and I understand he has 3 goals tonight, but what does Matt Rambo doing playing sixes? He's not going to go up and down for you. So you're running. So you've got a guy that's now going to have to pick up his defensive shifts, and you're thinking you're probably going to be behind on some, getting back in transition, because I mean, I can't say that I've sat down and watched Matt Rambo run. I can't imagine it's very fast. I mean, and it looks like, TJ Malone had one goal tonight, no assists, shot 14.3%. Now, obviously this is his first time playing sixes, but it's a big learning gap. I mean, Ryan Conrad and Brad Smith were as advertised. Looks like both of them had 5 points. They both shot above 40%, which is about all you can ask for in a sixes game.
But no help.
The roster is
no help.
Yeah, Roman Puglisi locked down his guy on defense pretty much all night. He's just
not helping you on the other end at all.
Yeah, but I mean, it looks like, what do we have? Only 4 goal scorers: Conrad, Smith, Rambo, and TJ. And it doesn't look. Let's see. And everybody else had shots, but
so it's funny that you say that. So they had 4 goal scorers. Atlas had 6 guys with 3 points or more, including 2 that had 8.
Costabile's right there in the middle of the golden stick race again.
Yes.
And like we were talking about earlier, Xander Dixon, I don't know, for this field to be this small, Xander Dixon is just like a ninja on offense, because he's so open every time he catches the ball.
Yeah.
And then it's effortless. It's him taking his stick and saying, "Yep, I'm going to put it right in the back of the net right now." And it just happens every time. He shot 62% tonight, 62.5% tonight.
That's insane.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
And they were well rounded. Ronan Jacoby, 4 points, a goal, 2 bomb, and an assist. Dylan Malloy, 5 goals, one of those being a 2, and 2 assists. I mean,
My
just production all over the place.
my only issue with Dylan Malloy, and again, this is going to sound like I'm throwing shade, and I'm really not trying to, is that let me see, I took this note down. Where is it at? Here we go. 6 of his 8 points came after there were less than 5 minutes in the third quarter or later. So it was all kind of garbage time after they were already up by like 10 points. I looked at it. If no one on Atlas scored after he scored that first of those last 6, he had a goal and assist in the first quarter. If no one including him, scores after the time he scores that first goal in the third quarter, they still win the game 14-13.
Wow.
So I felt like a lot of his work was done kind of once the game was out of hand, and it just, I don't know. 8 points ain't nothing to sniff at. Like, I'm not trying to dump on him too much, but I thought Brian Costabille's 8 points, the difference between those two was pretty drastic. Brian Costabile was putting up his points and driving that team, whereas as Dylan Malloy kind of helped pile on towards the end. I don't know what future. I saw some people saying that like Dylan Malloy should be a starter in the PLL, and I'm like, I just don't. I don't see it. I don't think he's a starter in the PLL. Not with the 8 teams that are out there right now. You know, if we add 2 more and we got 10 maybe, but
he's not a starter at attack. That's for sure.
No, right. That there's that highlight of him kind of mid late of the fourth quarter. He kind of dodges hard at his man, kind of bull dodges him a bit, creates a half a step, and then steps back and rips it from just inside the 2-point line. And I was like, yeah, that's not an attack play right there. Like that's something he could do at the midfield. Mm-hmm. Although
you're not doing that against a pole,
right.
Especially not a traditional pole that's bigger, that weighs more. I mean, obviously Dylan Moy's a big guy. He's getting some space on just about everybody.
Yeah.
But he's not getting that much space on a Graham Hossack or a Garrett Apple or a traditional, just like big, defender.
And not from 12 yards.
Yeah.
So speaking of big, Miles Jones, I feel like he is built for the Sixes game. I think he can get to any spot he wants. And if
he finished with 5 points, he really should have finished with 7. He hit 2 pipes.
Wasn't it 3? It was at least 2. It was at least 2.
And from less than 5 yards.
Yep.
Because he was, coming down the I guess the left side, kind of putting a shoulder in a guy and then getting to 3 feet unguarded.
Yeah.
He's going to be a monster once he gets that going.
Yeah, my worry, and I think it played out a little bit in this game, is his ability to go the whole game. I really thought he kind of faded. There were a lot of times early in the game he's involved, he's pushing, he's setting picks, he's doing stuff. In that third and fourth quarter, I saw him standing up in the corner up by the midfield line a lot, which kind of helped create some space. Because the Whips were pressing out, and so he had kind of dragged somebody else, which had created some other space. So it's not like this big thing, but it really felt like, especially he ran a few runs on defense, and it just felt like he kind of just didn't have the gas to just do that all day. But especially early in the game, he can get anywhere on the field he wants to, and if you deny him, he'll pull up and take the shot. Like he's got no qualms. And then he also
has dump it off. I mean, he had 3 assists tonight.
Right, I was going to say, or he has the vision. People seriously underrate Miles Jones's vision. And
people forget that Miles Jones, I don't know if he was first team, but he was an All-Pro in 2021. I want to say he was a first team All-Pro midfielder in 2021. I mean, I guess we're 4 years past that now, but he's still got game.
My hot take is that if his name was Tom Schreiber in 2021, he would have been the MVP. Again, that might be a conversation for another podcast on a different day. But yeah, people have definitely forgotten how good Miles Jones is and can be. So, that was definitely something to see. I don't know about you. I felt watching that game like, holy crap, I might have to pick, I might have to change my pick for this championship. I want to temper it slightly because it's the Whips, and we said, I mean, coming in, we knew they were going to be the worst team. So I would like to see them against. I think the other two teams are favorites for sure. You have the returning champs and the Cannons, and then you have the Archers, who we can get into in just a second. We'll look forward a little bit, but I think both teams think they can come here and win this. So I'd like to see them play against that before I really try and change it. But I mean, all you can do is beat the team in front of you, and
that's exactly right. A win's a win's a win.
Right.
Before we go any further, I do want to point out the Atlas did get a ton of production from their defense guys. So Tyler Carpenter, 3 points on a 2-bomb and an assist. Rosenka had a goal. Camizio had an assist. I don't know if you call Keegan Khan a midfielder or a D-midi, but he had a goal. It looks like all of their forwards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe not all of them.
Yeah, the only ones that I could think of were Kobe Smith didn't have a point.
That's the only one. That's the only one of their 10 field players that didn't have a point.
Yeah. So, no, they we talked about it with charging, kind of spreading the ball out, everybody getting in. I thought Chet Camizio was everywhere. He was doing it awesome. He was doing it on both ends. He was locked down on defense, stripped the ball. Several. I don't know. Do you have it up? Maybe I don't. I think he had turnovers. 3. Okay, yeah. So 3 caused turnovers. Pushing the ball in transition. I don't remember what you just said. I think he had a pointer or several points, but
an assist. An
assist. So got his name in the stat sheet for sure. But I thought even beyond that, he was pushing it in transition, getting it to his offense. He was everywhere. I thought he stood out to me. I think all of their defensive guys played well, but he really kind of popped off the screen to me in terms of what he was doing. So yeah, that's crazy good, and we'll see. Thursday is going to be interesting to see. So
definitely.
But before we get to Thursday, you know what? Before we get into tomorrow, I wanted to say 2 things. Same thing, but both things. I forgot to mention the first WLL goal ever was scored by Kylie Ohlmiller in her first game back in nearly 3 years. It was like 2.5 years. She tore her MCL and ACL, and then right as she was about to come back, she tore the same MCL and ACL again and was out again. So it was really cool to see her score the first goal of the WLL. I think she is one of the big names in the game, and hopefully she continues this recovery and gets back to everything we know she can be. It was great to see her score. Similarly, Brad Smith, also back from a long hiatus. He's been out about 18 months. I think it's 2 PLL seasons, but it's about 18 months based on where this is. From what I could tell, it was about 18. I think they said during an interview it was like 530 some odd days or something, which is right at about 18 months. He scored the first goal of the PLL game and then scored several more times and ended up arguably as the best player on the Whips team today. So really cool to see both of those things. Duke guy, love Brad Smith.
I like Brad a lot.
The only Whip player that I'm like, that is my guy. And he is a problem in sixes. You know, if he was on a better team, I mean, he would be lights out. For me, 5 goals in that performance, or 5 points in that performance, incredible. Like he is so good. He's such a problem. But let's look forward. Tomorrow, WLL, we have the guards playing the Palms. You and I are both admitted kind of outsiders to the women's game. I don't know a ton about these teams. I know Ali Masharani is the captain of the Palms. I don't know much about her, period, other than her name, that she's a big thing. I am pretty good friends with Casey, who is Small, who runs Shake School Lacrosse, and Allie is one of his like big clients. She's been with him forever. And then obviously the guard is Charlotte North, who is arguably the biggest name in the game right now. I was a little surprised that they didn't start tonight with Maryland, the hometown team, against Boston with the biggest name in the game. The only thing I thought, I thought about it for a while, and I thought maybe the idea was hometown team one night, hopefully maybe they get a win, and then biggest name in the game night 2, keeping people coming back. I don't know. I was trying to, but
I looked at it because I was thinking the same thing on the men's side. I'm thinking, why don't you have a championship rematch with Archer's Whips? And then I was like, okay, well, New York, I mean, and I guess the only teams that don't have a corresponding WLL team, obviously it's the Palms and the Archers.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, okay, maybe they're just doing, New York and Maryland and New York and Maryland, but they could have done the same thing with Boston too. So interesting, scheduling, and maybe they're trying, I don't know.
They are doing it. The Archers and the Chaos, or Archers and Palms, have been linked, and then everyone else is paired. So, like, if Charm is playing, the Whips are also playing, and all for the whole duration. But yeah, no, it's the scheduling seemed a little. It felt like there was maybe some better matchups, but again, women's lacrosse outsiders, maybe those are the 2 big teams. I don't know. Any predictions on guard Palms?
I think Charlotte North hits 2. I'm pumped to watch her play. She did my boy Dobson dirty in one of their little one-on-ones, and he got his get back in the second one. So I'm excited to see round 3 of that. But overall, I mean, obviously pumped to see Charlotte play and all the rest of the super talented women. And I think it's going to be another barn burner, hopefully. And although the over-under, I did look that up. The over-under did close at 29, so the game did go under.
The one today?
Yes.
Gotcha.
29 and a half. So it did go under. But really, I mean, it still felt like a barn burner to me. It went right down to the wire. And I think that'll happen again tomorrow night. So really excited about it.
Yeah, so the Charlotte North is one of the few things that I know. You mentioned you missed the Unleashed All-Star game last year. I did catch it, and she was incredible. I also watched a lot of the Women's World Box Lacrosse Championships. She was incredible in that as well. So between that and the fact that I live about 50 minutes from Boston, and there's no North Carolina team, there's no team that I've been affiliated with, I just kind of decided, you know what, I'll ride with the guard because I don't know better.
Yeah,
I had heard
the best looking logo in my opinion, and that's how I picked my PLL team. So
that is how I picked my PLL team. I might disagree with you on whether or not that's the best looking WLL logo, but
sure,
it is close. I have it up there. I think I lean charging, but ask me tomorrow and I might have a slightly different opinion. But yeah, so the guard was kind of my pick. So I guess I'm gonna ride with them and hope that tomorrow they show out and can win. Again, I don't know anything about that Palms team, so I guess we'll find out. We'll see. This is going to be a fun part of this show this week. Is looking forward
the women's game.
Come here for our intelligent analysis of the women's game. But then after actually, I think tomorrow it's flipped. I think the PLL game is first, but the PLL game tomorrow is the Archers versus the Cannons. You and I became friends because we both liked the Archers. I now am relatively unaffiliated, and the Cannons are the closest team to me. I don't want to like them, but
it's hard not to like the Holmans.
The Holmans are great. The Holmans are great. I agree with you there, and I'm a big Asher guy. I know you're a big Asher guy.
Matt Campbell is. I mean, if my golden stick pick is Mac O'Keefe, because I think he's just going to shoot from two all day, and he's going to hit 40% of them probably. That may be too high. He's going to hit a higher than average number of them, and it's going to be awesome. I cannot wait for that. But Matt Campbell would be my second pick.
Okay.
He runs out of the box with his hair on fire, and I really love his game. I think he'll be an Olympian.
So, Kieran McCardle won the Golden Stick last year, but second, third, and fourth were all Cannons. It was Asher, Marcus, and then Matt Campbell. Yep. Asher and Marcus finished on 31. I think Matt Campbell was like 28 or 27. Yep. So I think Matt Campbell's a great pick. I picked Marcus. I think him and
He's
Asher
currently the best shooter in the world.
Yes.
That mantle will soon be turned over to Mac O'Keefe.
What made me not pick Mac O'Keefe was Grant Ament missing. And not that they can't get him the ball, and not that he can't create his own shot as he's shown capable of doing. I think he's at his best when he can do both. Mm-hmm. And I don't know who's going to get him the ball. They might figure it out. They might show up tomorrow and there are 6 guys that can get him the ball in his spots. But I just feel like
I was admittedly bullish on Jackson Morrill when he came out. He was that terrible year for the Chrome. He was the only bright spot for the Chrome. And while it's not a 1-for-1 replacement for Grant Ament, because you would have to have called Tom Schreiber down from Toronto to do that, he is more of a facilitator. I remember I actually went to that. I think it actually might have been the PLO game that we met at. The Archers played the Chrome, and Jackson Morrill tore us up for like 6 points. Now 6 points, turned into probably 6 goals. I mean, that was he probably scored or assisted on all their goals.
Oh, what are you doing down here?
I'm muting you for a minute. Let Jackson finish his point real quick.
But yeah, like I said, not a 1-for-1 replacement, but he is going to step in, and he's more of a facilitator. We have plenty of scores. I mean, Ryan Ogden can shoot it from anywhere. I'm bullish on Cole Williams this year. Just another big body Dodger. And I mean, for some reason, and I'm going a little bit off track. For some reason, I saw on an Instagram post that Mason Woodward was like the 8th best odds to win the Golden Stick. I don't know where they're getting that from. They may have something more than I do, but he's obviously shown that he's not afraid to shoot the 2-ball, and I'm here for it. He's going to be in the black cleats like a D-mid, just gritty. Let's just, rip some 2s.
I have to say the Cannons were my pick to win it all. So, real quick, we are joined by Dre from the Drelax podcast. He is our man on the ground at the championship series this week. Dre, how are you doing, man?
Good, I mean, the snow was crazy, so there wasn't a lot of people in attendance. But there was at least like I want to say at least like 60 some people in the building. But for the people that did show up, they got one hell of a show. But I like I said on Twitter, one of the coolest things was seeing um like during the WLL game, there was this group of like girls that were very clearly Charm fans, and there was this group of girls on the other side that was very clearly Charging fans, and both sides, both of those groups of girls were rooting for their team, and it was one of those ones where it kind of brought me back to like my young fandom where it's a game and it's a tightly contested game and one of the teams got to lose, unfortunately. And I was just like, wow, one of those groups of girls is going to be really happy and one of them is going to still be excited they got to see the game, but they're going to be sad their team didn't win. And that's going to be like a interesting moment. And also, I just loved how excited the fans were. Like there was not a lot of people. It was not sold out. It was like, I mean, if the weather had been better, I'm sure it would have been more full. But everybody that was there was excited during both games too. It was just fun. Hopefully, the Whip Snakes have a better showing because the Atlas dog walk them from like it was unreal. Like no Jeff Teat, no Schellenberger, and the Atlas were still smoking them.
Yeah, no, well, Jackson and I were talking. The Whips have the worst roster at the championship series, and Staggs is a great coach, but there's something about Sixes like he just doesn't do it. Like he just it's not his game. So, Dre, you are a little bit more in tune with the women's game, at least more so than us are.
Yeah.
Wondering what your thoughts are about the Guard Palms game tomorrow.
Honestly, okay, on paper, the Guard has a much more stacked roster than the Palms because the Guard have the best women's player on the planet in Charlotte North. And so we'll see how that goes. But I do want to just add a lot of the matchups that should have been more tightly contested or did look to swing in favor of the opposite team has been surprising. We've gotten surprises out of both. So I think the Palms are going to put up a good fight, but I think the Guard are going to take this one. I don't necessarily have a score prediction in my mind. If I had to guess, I think Charlotte's probably going to get a hat trick. She'll be the second player in the WLL to get a hat trick. Um, but I think teams are going to do kind of what the Charging were starting to do with Sydney Black, and they're going to slide to Charlotte early, and that's going to open up the rest of her teammates to get hot and score. Because we've seen kind of like what goes on with Izzy Skane, where teams start to double or slide early, and a prolific player will go from being a straight up shooter to a assist person, kind of like what happens when you try to double or slide early to Jeff Teat. You think he only can score on you, nah, he can beat you with assists too. So it'll be fun.
All right. Dre, we've been going for a while. I'm gonna end it with this question, and I'm probably gonna ask you guys every day. If you're on, I'm gonna ask you every day. If you change your mind, you change your mind. I don't imagine that you guys will. Right now, and I'll start with Jackson. Give me your WLL champion, your PLL champion, and your Golden Stick winners.
Okay.
So
Jackson can start if he wants.
yeah, today I responded to Chris Rosenthal's tweet, and I'm going to stick with it for right now. I have Mac O'Keefe winning the Golden Stick, leading the Archers to a championship, the first PLL double. And then I have the old trend of the Golden Stick going to a player on the championship loser, being Charlotte North, losing to the New York Charging.
All right, Dre, what you got?
You know, oh man, I like the grit. So I have the charm losing to the Boston Guard. And I have Sydney Black getting the golden stick. I just, based off what I saw today, I think the Charm are going to bounce back. And one of the home field teams is going to get it to the championship game. And then for the men's, um, my my golden stick. I definitely think it's going to be Mac O'Keefe just because this is a format that's built up for him. But I see the Atlas winning the on the men's side. I just that the like with how they looked today. I don't think anybody but the Atlas can beat the Atlas. I just don't, unfortunately. Uh, but I just say that mostly because Liam, for being a championship series rookie, he just looks so dialed up. Like
Yeah.
and I mean, I will say that out of all the goalies in championship series, he's right now the best one. But hey, it's a long week. Anything can change.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm gonna be asking you guys every day that you're here. I know you guys may not be on every day, but every day that you are here, be prepared to answer that question. Today, similar to Jackson, I answered Chris Rosenthal's tweet as well, and I picked Marcus Holman and the Cannons to be my PLL champion and golden stick winner. I'm gonna stick with that for today. We'll see what happens with the game tomorrow, and then my WLL same thing, doubling up on both of them. I got Charlotte North right now and the Guard as the champion. So with that being said, I appreciate you guys for joining us. I will be back tomorrow for sure. For everyone listening, these guys might be with us. I know Dre is on the ground, but he has to travel back, and we're trying to get these done kind of while the games are fresh, and giving you guys something to listen to in the morning on the way to work as the primer. So we'll see. Hopefully we will have some people in and out throughout the week. Again, guys, I really appreciate you joining us.
Yeah. See you. Thanks for having me, though.
All right, guys.
See you guys.
See you.